I was so impressed by the students in the beginning, and I still am now. I have been here 25 years because of the students.
A building that offered freedom to create.
Unionville is a wonderful educational experience, I think both for the teachers, hard to say for students, but I think for the students too.
It was a lot of fun. That was the best year of my life there, 20 years.
It takes about 5 to 6 years for a new school to really develop its identity. Unionville had an identity from day one.
Yes, the students really want to learn, and they like to pick your brains, and quite a number of students would stay behind after class or talk to you after school. And
I always felt safe in the school because I knew certain staff members had my back. I wasn't a good student, and pretty much the entire staff would agree with that.
And as a lot of former students have told me, this has been a great training ground for them, no matter what they went on to do.
As a student, I can remember so fondly walking through the halls and hearing students practice these beautiful French horns and clarinets in a hallway, and just to think how lucky we were to be able to hear that. I mean, that's getting culture like no other.
Some of the students that have graduated, I'm still friends with.
Exciting. I just came to school. It was the end of my teaching career. I retired from Unionville, and I think I was just really lucky that I got to retire being as excited as I was when I started teaching.
I would never trade this experience for anything. I've stayed here way past retirement because I love every day of being in this school.
I thought I died and went to heaven when I became principal here at Unionville High School, because to me it was the best school in the region and the only school that I would have wanted to be a principal at.
It still feels very much like at home, and I walk up the stairs to room 348, which is the room that I taught in for all of those years, and to sort of peer in, and it brings you to sort of think back, oh, I remember when we did this, and I remember when this happened, and so on and so forth. And I think that's part of the fun of a reunion, quite honestly. I think that the past is part of our life, and I think it becomes, it's important that if you slam doors on your past, I think that says something. And I'd rather keep the door open, and our reunion is maybe one way of doing that.
I worked with Mr. Stephen Baxelmassey, who was the Superintendent of Planning and Development for the board, over many years, and it was his dream to have a school for the arts. That was his dream. And so as the Superintendent of Planning and Development, he was responsible for trying to build that concept into one of the new schools that was opening. There had been no new high schools open in York Region for quite a number of years. The rooms themselves in the building are very much oriented to the arts, with the dance studios and with the special technology area that there is, with the music studios and rehearsal rooms and the visual arts and so on, drama studios. They were all very much built into it. So was I excited? Incredibly so. So when we visited this site, myself first of all with the planning staff, and then ultimately with my department heads, once they'd been selected, we were still walking through a construction site. So we had to have our helmets on, our safety helmets, we had to have our steel-toed boots, but so exciting because everybody was visualizing what they want. Where's my area? Where's the area? Where's the history department going to be? Where's the art department going to be? And they were kind of stepping into those spaces where it was safe to do so, and kind of visualizing how it would all look when it was done and furnished and painted and carpets in and everything. It was fabulous.
First of all, to see the school constructed was really exciting. I was able to come in here. I was hired before the school actually opened, so I got to see things that I hadn't seen before. For example, the terrazzo flooring we have in the school. I'd never seen how they had done that before. The stairwells were in, but most of the walls were not in. We got to see the classes before there were many, features in them and so on.
I think the original staff, we were hired about well, the department heads, we were hired about 8 or 9 months before the school was actually constructed or finished. And so, and I was living in Markham at the time, and so every day I was driving along Highway 7 and watching the school go up. But of course, we weren't allowed in the building without hard hats, and so I think we had 3 or 4 visits inside the building, special kind of visits, when we could wear hard hats and all that kind of thing to watch it actually going up.
It generally didn't look like a high school. It was very innovative in its design. Where most schools, you drive by a school, you can tell it's a school from the outside.
It was very exciting days at the beginning with all the, such a different design. It made a lot of different reactions come out in teaching, you know. The atrium was especially enjoyable, especially that we had a opening day or I forget what it was, a musical time where everyone sang around the atrium on the stairs and the lights. It was a magical kind of beginning of the whole school time there.
I wouldn't leave this school. There's a lot of reasons, but the number one reason is the students. Great attitude, no behavioral problems to speak of. They still open the door for people. It's a good place to be, largely because of the student body. So yeah, the student body's changed over the years, but they're still the best, undoubtedly the best student body in York Region.
I'd say there have been a few students well, I like to think that all my former students went on to great things, especially Jerry Berridge, who of course is still here. My God, he's part of the cornerstone. We can't get rid of him. I guess he'll be forever here, but I think there are a lot of students either that I taught or that were here at, when I was teaching have gone on to great things. Adam Brazier, who I know you've already interviewed, is one who's had quite a great career in acting. Hayden Christensen, of course, who played Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars movies. But a lot of people have done extremely well in the business world. Gannon Jones, one of the first student council presidents, is a vice president of a major company now in the United States. He lives in Dallas, Texas. So I think there are a lot of former students have really distinguished themselves and done very well, whether in the arts field or whether it's in the business world.
Being a teacher at Unionville from the beginning it's really been my career, you know, most of my career. So when I think of my experience here, I think of all the students that I've worked with and I'm still in communication with to this day. How many of them are involved in teaching the arts, which is just awesome.
The first school dance just was awesome. The reason was because there were we had so many kids. I think we had over more than we could handle, because the students allowed to bring a friend and themselves. So it was just crowded. We had to turn kids away.
Our first winter assembly, Wayne Solman and I got together and we decided we'd do the Blues Brothers. So we scrounged around, we asked some of the kids if they'd like to be in the Blues Brothers band. They did, and so I thought it'd be a really good idea if we rehearsed, but that kind of didn't happen. So Wayne and I talked about what we'd do. I remember we did put Elwood on his knuckles and Jake on mine, or was it the other way around? I can't remember. Anyway, without rehearsal, pretty excited. I was pretty nervous given that I have no talent whatsoever. I can't dance, I can't sing.
Hold it a long, long time. Well, hold that kiss till I put it in my head like wine. And I'll flip, flop, and fly. I don't care if I die. Flip, flop, and fly. I don't care if I die. Don't have to leave it, don't have to say goodbye.
actually, I made a fool of myself. Wayne was pretty good, I thought, yeah. So it's a great memory though, being Soul Man. But then we had 2 more assemblies to try and get it better. By the 3rd, we were good. We were good.
I think the arts productions were always memorable. The Christmas assemblies. Oh yes, the Christmas assemblies. The teacher participation in the Christmas assemblies was always memorable.
It's hard to tell if I exist. If I pack the car and leave this town, I'll notice that I'm not around. I could hide out under there. I just made you say underwear.
Probably for me, one of the biggest highlights of my school career was being involved in the very first Showtime. Not only was I in the pit band, but I was also on the stagecraft crew who built the sets.
First year, we helped on scenery, and it was quite amazing. It was we did this giant set of brick walls, and at the time there was only 2 of us, Ms. Troster and myself, and we were painting with sponging the brick wall, which took up the whole floor, and it was exciting. The Showtime productions are amazing here.
Being a part of Showtime was, to me, the most exciting part of the year. Showtime was like Christmas for a lot of the Arts York students. It got us into the theater. It was everything we thought. For me, it was everything I thought about throughout the year and anticipated. It was the week and a half that we were in there in the Markham Theater was bliss.
It was not quite beautiful. I wish my son would melt to cool. I wish my house would not pass. I wish the cow would hold the milk. I wish the ball would hold the gold. I wish the salted beans. You foolish child! What in heaven's name would he do with the cow inside of the house? A warm environment might just be what Milky White needs to produce his milk.
The quality of the work that was coming out was exceptional, and it wasn't just from the people on stage, it was from the people in the pit playing the instruments, and the crew who built the set and painted it, and then the tech who lit it, and it was as if everybody pooled together to create something really special and unique.
She was portraying an extraordinary teacher, and she would dress up in the role of the caricature that she was portraying and bring it to the classes. When she was here, she was a science teacher, and so she was playing the role of Einstein or Sir Isaac Newton. And what we had was, we had a Jimmy, and that is a little like a cherry picker that goes really high in the air, and she would go right up in the air because we had a big open plan, and she would drop things from the sky to let the students that she had below, showing them all different things about laws of gravity.
The school spirit was phenomenal when the school first opened. The early sports teams used to pack the gym for basketball games and volleyball games. And I can remember being one of the basketball coaches in the early years. For playoff games, we used to fill the gym.
I coached the cheerleading team with a couple of other female coaches. We had, I don't know, it must have been about 40 girls and guys, and then we were doing that in conjunction with cheerleading as well too. We had some pep rallies where we had kids doing like double flips off a mini tramp, and you know, if you want to see the whole crowd or the whole gym is full of kids just seeing that, it really gets you pumped up. So
for the yearbook, the first year, we got all the students out in the football field, and then we had a helicopter come overhead, and we took a picture of all the students making a UHS, which was really good. We also had the staff were very close. We had the chorus, where we had all the staff dress up and sing. We also have multicultural dinners. We had the Halloween where everyone dressed up. So there was a lot of spirit in the first year.
The spirit things that I remember from the school were like the Love Squad, which were a bunch of guys who came out and made asses of themselves, and that was a lot of fun. And the Carlucci's, which were like our school gangsters. So the Carlucci's started off one year just as a small group of musicians being gangsters. And every year, and the thing that with the Carlucci's was it was all about the entrance, how you entered the assembly, the pep rally, whatever it was. And we once drove a golf cart through the school. We once drove a Saab onto the Markham Theatre stage and rappelled down from the grid. And it all built and built and built until our final one, when most of us were graduating, and we had the director of education with us, and we flew a helicopter over the school and landed it in the front field, and then had a police escort of a police cruiser and 2 motorcycles, and then had a stretched Mercedes limousine drive the rest of us up, because there was about 10 of us all together, and all of it to the underscore of Smooth Criminal. I think the Carlucci's was inspired by pure stupidity, because it cost all of us an arm and a leg to do the things, because we paid for everything out of our own pockets, but we just had to one-up ourselves every time. So it was a competition with ourselves, really.
Unionville High School was the first school to have been built in York Region for quite a number of years, and there was a superintendent of curriculum who believed that there should be an opportunity for students who are extremely talented in the arts to pursue that in the company of their peers. So when Unionville High School was built, it was built with rooms that have, the school was built with an arts focus, therefore we have studios, art studios that don't exist in other schools, such as the dance.
We wanted to try things that were creative and different. We wanted to provide the best instruction we could so that if students wanted to go on in their art form, they could, but if they didn't, they would still come out of here just with that experience being better and wiser for it and becoming good audience members and supporters of the arts. And I guess to that end, one of the creative things that we did, for example, we had a show that was originally written for us. So we had thought, we weren't going to do any book shows here. It would be original, creative, and actually Jian Gomeshi, who is now on The Q on CBC, and Mike Ford, both of those composers were part of Moxie Frubus and had attended Thornley by chance, but they wrote our first show, which was called The Big Scoop.
One of the things, as an academic teacher, I saw the two as having a lot in common. I found that some of my best students were often outstanding in the arts and vice versa. I can give you an example of that. I can remember one time that Ethan Melberg, who is a teacher now in York Region, was a very gifted musician. And so he said to me, he says, when I'm doing my major seminar in this history class, it was a modern, what we called in those days, modern Western civilizations course, he said, I want to see if I can take over one of the music rooms and maybe if we could work this out. So he did his seminar, sitting at a history seminar, sitting at the piano, in a music room, and improv music as he was doing his kind of lecture on his particular history topic. And I found that was fantastic. In fact, I remember John Phillips, who was then the music head, coming in and sitting in and watching this, because it was a performance in every sense. It was a history performance, but it was also a music performance.
I was in the Arts York Drama department. I was a student there, and it was the reason I came to school. Everything else I could have done without, but that's what got me up every morning. What the school encouraged in a lot of us was the ability and the willingness to take risks. And I think that any artist or anybody who came out of the arts program or any other part of the school will value that later in their lives and use that all the time. And I know I do, for sure.
I absolutely think the arts program really helps anybody who's going on to an art career. It gives them grounding, it gives them organizational skills, which some of them really, really need. Aside from the facilities, it lets them work in an environment that's very professional with a lot of people that are very motivated. So even that just increases their exposure to art and their understanding of what good art is and what makes art really quality, what's involved in the process.
School produced some great athletes, some great student athletes. We had championship basketball teams at the junior level. At the senior level, I believe we challenged for a couple of years at the senior level and lost in the finals York Region Championship. Mr. Bogle and I started really baseball in York Region, and we ended up winning the York Region Championship one year. Hockey has been great at Unionville. I think we're really known as a volleyball school, and athletics and student athletes at the school have been great over the years. Great spirit, always more students wanting to play than teachers coaching. So in some cases it was unfortunate that we couldn't field teams because we couldn't get coaches.
Okay, what do I think about Unionville not having a football team because of the trees? Well, this is what I think. Damn trees. Where's an axe when you need them, eh? You could have had a football team with those bloody trees. Action. Greatest myth of all time. It has nothing to do with the trees, the expense of the trees. We couldn't come up with the money for the football team. It had nothing to do with that. At one point, Sheila Dever, our principal, called me in the office, thought it would be great to have a football team. Parents had asked for it. She told me we had the money right then and there to start a football team. And after a long discussion, it became quite obvious that if you don't have, and I mentioned this earlier, passionate coaches, 3, 4, 5 real football people that are going to be at the school for a long time, there's no point in starting a football program. And we've never had football people at the school.
There's one thing we've done for over 20 years, is called a polar bear dip. And in January, cut a hole in the ice, 2 feet thick layers of ice, and you put your bathing suit on, and there's enough students that have gone through Out to Red that have done that, and we've got pictures for quite a few, and that's an adventure in itself. So.
My time here at Unionville High School, both as a teacher and a principal, has been exciting, interesting, and very challenging.
Being here, you can be in a terrible mood and walk in, and the kids are so fantastic and so much fun and so easy. You actually walk out with a smile on your face, and it happens every day.
You know, I still like what's going on, and I'll probably be here to the bitter end.
When I look back at Unionville, it certainly overall was a major highlight of my life. There's no question. I wouldn't have stayed here for 13 years if I thought otherwise.
My UHS experience, I don't think I would change for anything. And I think there's an old saying amongst the staff here, once you come to Unionville, you really don't want to leave. This is probably the best place from a teacher perspective that anybody would want to teach in. The students are great, the staff is great. You have a high degree of enthusiasm, a high degree of reward from teaching at this place. And, the case is I retired 3 years ago and I'm still here. I still come back as a supply teacher.
No, I don't think I have any regrets. No, I loved it here, and I loved the students, and the staff, and the schools, and the French fries and gravy, and Sam, the custodian.
Welcome to Unionville High, you all. Come on and we'll show you around. Watch it, we ain't no shopping mall. We got the best damn colors in town. The best damn colors in town. Tall people winning basketball. So tuck around that trumpet player, thrill them all. Anybody need a little help to stay away? We'll stomp our feet, move the floor, then shake, 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 shake. Unionville's got it. Unionville's got it. Spirit flying crazy, just keep moving, sing along, yeah. Unionville's got it. Unionville's got it. Talk about the students, we're electric with this song,
We've got an Arctic wolf, his name is Fred. He's kept us really rocking while our school is led. And hippie, hippie,